For decades, the United States was the world's undisputed superpower, its military unmatched. But now China has emerged as a formidable rival, transforming from a poor nation into an economic and military powerhouse. This rivalry is a complex contest for global influence. The US wants to maintain its leadership, believing it keeps the world stable. China seeks greater respect and influence, especially in Asia, and views US actions as attempts to block its rise. At the heart of this competition is a fundamental disagreement about who should set the rules for the world. The US relies on a global network of military bases and alliances. China is building its own military presence and using economic initiatives like the Belt and Road to expand its influence. This is a global chess game. The stakes are enormous, not just military dominance but the rules that govern trade, law, and peace. Will the world continue under the US-led order, or will China reshape it? The answer will affect everyone. This rivalry is the defining story of our era. The world is watching as these two giants compete for the future. The outcome will shape the 21st century. For years, China's military was massive but outdated, focused on defending its borders with old Soviet equipment. The 1990s showed Chinese leaders just how far behind they were, as US forces demonstrated advanced technology in wars abroad. Determined to catch up, China launched a sweeping modernization, one of the fastest military buildups in history. It poured money into new technology, bought advanced weapons from Russia, and began developing its own cutting-edge systems. The goal shifted, not just defense but challenging US power in the Pacific and beyond. China's Navy is now the world's largest by ship count, with home-built aircraft carriers, advanced destroyers and submarines. This new fleet lets China protect its shipping lanes and assert claims in contested waters like the South China Sea. For the first time in centuries, China is a true naval power, directly challenging US dominance at sea. China's missile force has also transformed, with a vast arsenal designed to keep US ships at bay, especially carrier-killer missiles. Hypersonic missiles traveling at over 5 times the speed of sound make US defenses even more difficult. These advances threaten America's traditional military edge in Asia. China's military is no longer just a regional force, it's a global contender. The balance of power is shifting. The world is watching as China's military rise reshapes the global order. The rivalry is just beginning. The US military isn't standing still as China rises. After years focused on the Middle East, the Pentagon has shifted its attention to countering China. America's strategy: stay ahead through technology. The US leads in stealth aircraft, like the F-22 and F-35, and is developing the next-generation B-21 Raider bomber. Unmanned drones are being designed to fly alongside piloted jets, acting as robotic wingmen. The Navy is adapting too, building smaller, more numerous ships, including unmanned vessels, to make its forces harder to target. New long-range missiles and laser weapons are being developed to counter threats from Chinese missiles and drones. The US is also investing in a revolutionary concept: Joint All-Domain Command and Control, or JDC2. The idea is to connect every sensor, ship, plane, and soldier into a single AI-powered network. Information from satellites, ships, and ground troops would flow instantly, allowing for faster, smarter decisions. This networked approach aims to outpace any rival, making the US military more agile and lethal. The technological race is fierce, each side racing to out-innovate the other. America's edge has always been its ability to integrate new technology quickly. But China is catching up fast, investing heavily in its own research and development. The future of warfare will be shaped by who can master these new technologies first. The US is determined not to lose its lead. The stakes: military dominance in the 21st century. Every breakthrough could tip the balance. The race for a technological edge is on. The outcome will define the next era of global power. The US-China rivalry is moving into invisible realms: artificial intelligence and cyber warfare. Both nations see AI as the key to future military dominance: smarter weapons, faster decisions, and autonomous systems that can fight without human control. Billions are being poured into AI research, with both sides racing to develop autonomous drones, surveillance systems, and decision-making tools. Cyber warfare is just as critical. Attacks on computer networks can cripple power grids, financial systems, or military communications without a single shot fired. Both countries have elite cyber units constantly probing for weaknesses and planting digital traps. The line between espionage and war is blurry. A single cyber attack could trigger a real-world crisis. China's vast population and government control give it an edge in data, while the US leads in tech innovation and talent. The AI and cyber race isn't just military, it's economic, social, and political. The risks are enormous. A miscalculation could escalate quickly. The world's most advanced militaries are now locked in a silent, daily struggle. The winner in AI and cyber could dominate future conflicts. The rules of war are being rewritten in code and algorithms. The outcome will shape not just battlefields but the entire global order. The race is on, and the stakes are higher than ever. Space is now a critical battleground in the US-China rivalry. Satellites are essential for communication, navigation, and intelligence. Without them, modern militaries are blind. The US once dominated space, but China has rapidly closed the gap, launching its own navigation system and hundreds of satellites. Both nations are developing counter-space weapons, missiles, lasers, and satellites that can disable or destroy enemy assets. In 2007, China destroyed one of its own satellites, proving its capabilities and creating dangerous debris. The US responded by creating the Space Force, dedicated to protecting American interests in orbit. The risk, a conflict in space, could cripple economies and militaries on Earth. The new space race is about more than exploration. It's about control. Whoever dominates space will have a decisive edge on the ground. The competition is intensifying, with both sides preparing for a new kind of warfare. The stars are no longer a sanctuary. They're a battlefield. The consequences of a space war would be global. The race for the high ground has never been more urgent. Military might is built on economic strength. The US has long had the world's largest economy, funding a massive military budget and global presence. But China's rapid economic growth has changed the equation. Now the world's second largest economy, China can spend more on its military, and gets more for every dollar spent. China's focus is regional, allowing it to concentrate resources in the Western Pacific, while the US must stretch its forces worldwide. This home team advantage gives China a significant edge near its shores. The US worries about losing its industrial base, especially in critical sectors like microchips. China's vast manufacturing capacity lets it build military hardware at scale and speed. The economic race is also a tech race. Whoever leads in industry and innovation will shape the future of military power. Both nations are trying to secure supply chains and rebuild key industries. The competition is fierce, with each side seeking an edge in technology, production, and resources. Economic power and military power are two sides of the same coin. The outcome will determine who sets the rules for the global economy and the global order. The stakes are not just military, but economic survival. The world is watching as these two giants compete for dominance. The race is far from over. The US-China rivalry is most dangerous at two flashpoints, Taiwan and the South China Sea. Taiwan is a self-governing democracy, but China claims it as its own and vows reunification, by force if necessary. The US maintains strategic ambiguity, selling arms to Taiwan but not promising direct intervention. For China, taking Taiwan is a core goal. For the US, defending it is about supporting democracy and regional stability. The South China Sea is another hotspot, vital for global trade but claimed almost entirely by China. China has built artificial islands and military bases, while the US insists on freedom of navigation, sending warships through contested waters. American and Chinese forces operate dangerously close, raising the risk of accidents or miscalculations. A single incident could escalate rapidly, drawing in allies like Japan and the Philippines. These flashpoints are the most likely triggers for a major conflict. The world watches nervously, knowing the stakes are global. The balance of power in Asia hangs in the balance. The risk of war is real, and rising. The US-China competition affects every nation, forcing countries to choose sides or try to balance both powers. International organizations are divided, with China challenging US influence and pushing its own agenda. This rivalry creates gridlock, making it harder to solve global problems like climate change or pandemics. An arms race is underway in Asia, as countries like Japan, Australia, and India boost their militaries and strengthen ties with the US. China sees these moves as threats, fueling further buildup and tension. Developing nations face tough choices: accept Chinese investment and influence, or align with the US for security. The competition brings both opportunities and risks, but can also drag smaller countries into a great power struggle. The world is becoming more fragmented and less cooperative. The rivalry's impact is global, shaping economies, alliances, and security. The stakes go far beyond Washington and Beijing. The US-China rivalry will define this century, but will it stay a competition or turn into conflict? History warns that rising powers often clash with established ones, but war isn't inevitable. Both sides are deeply connected economically, making war disastrous for all. Yet the risk of conflict is real, especially at flashpoints like Taiwan and the South China Sea. A single miscalculation could spark a war with devastating consequences. Such a conflict would be fought with high-tech weapons across vast distances and could cripple the global economy. The presence of nuclear weapons raises the stakes to existential levels. The challenge is to manage competition responsibly. Clear communication rules of the road and crisis management are essential. Both nations must find ways to compete without going to war. Cooperation on global issues like climate change and health is still possible. The world is big enough for both powers to thrive if leaders have the wisdom to avoid disaster. The future depends on choices made now. Will rivalry lead to catastrophe, or can the US and China coexist peacefully? The answer will shape the world for generations. The stakes are nothing less than peace or war on a global scale. The world is watching and hoping for wisdom. The next chapter is unwritten. The choice is ours.